So hi everyone, my name is Eder and welcome to another Project Wesker video. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the new trailer for Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Right before we get started though, I'd just like to mention if this is your first time here, consider subscribing because I post about everything that has to do about Resident Evil every single week. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that I noticed a lot of people had very mixed feelings about the trailer. I just want to start off by saying that this is a very short trailer, and the reason for that is because literally the movie's coming out next month on November 24th, but all of the red flags that you've seen in the trailer shouldn't be a surprise, especially if you guys have watched my previous video where I basically stated a lot of the red flags that we saw in the trailer. Though I don't think it's enough to break the movie, to be honest. You know, like, we have to remember that the Milla Jovovich movies weren't that great, and they were a completely separate, entity, if you will. Like, they had nothing to do with Resident Evil. They just had the name and they kind of did their own thing in that Resident Evil world. So what I'm saying is that the bar is set really low for it to be a very good movie. Now, I noticed a lot of people were very upset with the costumes and all of that. To be honest, I mean, if we look back to the original Resident Evil and even the Resident Evil remake, for Resident Evil 1 remake I'm talking about, the costumes weren't that great anyways. And so that shouldn't be enough of a reason for you guys to be like, oh, I'm not gonna watch this movie, whatever. And personally for me, I'm trying to keep a very open mind, right? I'm not gonna say that the movie sucks or the movie is not good if I haven't watched it yet. And like I said, the bar is set really low, and so we won't know until we've actually seen it, and there's only a couple weeks before we can actually all watch it and give our full opinion on the movie. But so far, I don't think, there shouldn't be any surprises is what I'm saying, especially if you guys have been watching my other previous videos on Welcome to Raccoon City. But anyways, yeah, so let's get started. So the way I'm actually going to break it down is just by breaking it down shot for shot, or the majority, I would say 90% of the shots I took a picture of. And so yeah, so the first scene of the trailer is us looking at Claire riding her bike, just like in Resident Evil 2. Later on, we actually see some SWAT teams, or I would guess they're Umbrella. The next shot that we see looks to be a SWAT member taking out zombies. Or you know what, I would even go so far to say that this looks, and I would speculate that this is probably like Hunk's team or someone from Umbrella, like what was happening in Carlos. Carlos' organization in Resident Evil 3. UBCS, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we see people evacuating the city. Later on, we do see a picture of Hunk and his team, and I gotta say, it looks pretty good. I'm actually, a lot of people were very upset that, Claire didn't have the right hair, she didn't have a ponytail, or that, Evangelia didn't look anything like Leon. But you know what, I'm kind of surprised. The Hunk doesn't look too bad. That's pretty good. I mean, yeah. Yeah, next we see that same shot of Claire arriving to Raccoon on her bike, and it looks like she has a helmet this time, which was something that was kind of weird about the games, that she didn't have a helmet when she came into Raccoon. All right, and we know that from the date, it's September 30th, 1998. Yeah, we actually have an updated picture or look at the sign, Welcome to Raccoon City. And this is what I stated before, right? It says, usually it's supposed to say F Umbrella, and it looked like they took that out of the trailer just so that, there's no profanity looking through the trailer. Keep it PG. Yeah, this is something that we spoke of, right, in the previous video that I did about Welcome to Raccoon City, that judging from the synopsis, it does seem that Raccoon City has been abandoned, almost like a mining town. It seems like the majority of people that were living in the city were just there to work for Umbrella, since it was the biggest company there. It's very reminiscent of those old mining towns from, like in the Old West. If there was no more mining company there, or the mine was closed, and the majority of the citizens would leave. And so there we have confirmation of what was already stated. Next, we see a look of the overall city. Now it looks more of a town than a city, and that was always something that was kind of confusing about the games. And I would say the reason for that is probably because in Japan, the cities are quite small, but they do have like a whole downtown area with buildings. And of course, we know that Resident Evil, was made in Japan. And so even like that, like the layout in the games was kind of weird, right? It was kind of like a Japanese, or like what a Japanese person thought an American small town or small city would look like. And the reason that I always got confused, even when I played the games, was calling it a city or a town was because, there were buildings in Raccoon City. You know, there were huge buildings. It almost looked like a huge district, you know, especially in the remake of Resident Evil 3. We got to look more into the streets of Raccoon. The whole layout was just very strange. But it seems like they went with the town, asked, you know, more of an American town, and this is what we would see. I'm okay with it being a town. I mean, this is fine. Yeah, but it looks like we can see the RPD building there on the left. It looks like an observatory on the right. Yeah, I don't know if I can spot anything else. Let me know down in the comments if you guys spot anything, you know, any major locations like the clock tower. Is that the clock tower? I can't really tell. Yeah, or is that just RPD? Or is the clock tower right next to RPD? I don't know. But anyways, it looks good. The size of it looks decent enough. Then we see Claire talking to her brother, which is something we never got in the games, which is always strange to me, right? I mean, they just omitted that. And also in Resident Evil Code Veronica X, we never saw that either. We never saw Claire speaking with Chris until like later on in the game. But so I like that. I like that, you know, she actually did speak with her brother, and they are combining, this is something we already know, is that they are combining the stories of Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2 into one night, right? It's not going to happen in a couple of days. It's not going to be a flashback. There's no indication of that. I noticed a lot of people were commenting on my previous video about that. You know, they were saying, oh yeah, it's probably going to be a flashback, or we're saying, no, that's not true. You know, Eder, that's not going to happen. But no, that is, right? That's what we know so far, and that's what the trailer is showing us, that this is going to happen in one night. Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2. And one of my concerns in the previous video, which I'll bring up right now, which is kind of a con, is kind of a red flag, is the fact that, you know, there's no mention of Resident Evil 3, and it almost makes it impossible if Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2 are happening in the same night. Chris, Jill, and the rest of the STARS members are going to be in the mansion, while Resident Evil 2, the events of Resident Evil 2 are happening at the same time. So we can't have Jill be going through Raccoon City with Nemesis chasing her. That's not, I think they just omitted that. And to be honest, right, this is a movie. This isn't a show where they can take their time with things. You have to remember that this is a movie, so it's probably going to be, you know, less than 2 hours, or if we're lucky, we're probably going to get 2 hours and 30 minutes. Though I doubt it. Most movies are a little bit less than 2 hours. So they basically have to cram in all of the history of Resident Evil, all of the events that were in Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2. So I wouldn't, you know, it's not surprising that they're trying to fit everything into one movie and they're trying to combine everything, right? I mean, it could still work, but what I'm saying is that don't expect to have a lot of scenes from the games appear in the movie, right? Like we have, and with this trailer, we actually never saw Barry, Burton, or Rebecca. We never saw any mention of them. So it seems like they're just gonna omit those characters, or, you know, come up with something to get, you know, to put them away. The other thing that we know information about Claire is that she actually grew up in an orphanage, and so I'm assuming that since Chris is her brother, they both grew up in the same orphanage, right? That's information that we do know from the director, and you can check my previous video where I basically mentioned that from IGN's interview that they had with the director of Welcome to Raccoon City. And the reason I think they added that to the story is probably so that Claire and Sherry could have more of a connection together, and there's more of a connection to them. There's more of a backstory, right, that I guess was missing in the original Resident Evil, right? Now, I didn't read the S.D. Perry books, but, you know, yeah, it could, maybe it was from there. Correct me if I'm wrong, let me know down in the comment. But yeah, so yeah, she's basically saying, you know, your conspiracy theories were never true. Chris is talking with his sister. Next shot, it looks to be Annette Birkin, if I remember her name correctly. I think it's Annette Birkin. William Birkin's wife. Looks like she's leaving a facility. Then we see Claire with a little blood on her neck. Seems like this is later on in the movie. Seems like, yeah, she's gone through some fights. And then we're going back to the scene that we were just looking at, where Claire is basically talking to her brother and explaining that there's a conspiracy in Raccoon City. She's putting a video on a VHS. That brings back some memories of her using a VCR. Now, like I just mentioned, I didn't read the S.D. Perry books, though I did get the first book, but since I just recently moved just a couple months ago, I did lose my book around the house. But there was an interesting character that showed up in the book, at the beginning of the book especially. I think it was a character, I think it was a Chris's best friend, and I think his name was Billy. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, because like I said, I'm not too sure. I don't remember the exact name of the guy, but in the book, I remember that Chris Redfield had a friend that worked in Umbrella. and he basically wanted to meet up with Chris at a diner in Raccoon and basically explain to Chris that he just found out a huge secret of Umbrella, and this friend, I'm pretty sure his name was Billy, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but he basically was the one that brought up Chris's suspicion of the stars and all of Umbrella that was working in Raccoon City, right? There was a huge conspiracy. And so I think, this is my speculation, but I think this is the same guy, or they're using that same story from the books and they're adding it into the movie. But instead, this is more of Claire's friend, is what I could understand from the trailer. But like I said, this is just my speculation. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. But yeah, this guy basically just states that there is a conspiracy, and you can see behind him, there's a whole blackboard of him connecting the dots to everything. So it looks like what happened in the book is that Chris's friend, the informant, I guess, the guy that was, working for Umbrella, died. And to keep the conspiracy, hush hush. So I think that's what they're going with, but yeah, let me know what you guys think. Next, we see a creepy look of the town of Surrey, and I gotta say, yeah, this is what I was mentioning in the previous video, that when I just stated, I just recently moved and I passed by this town, and it did look creepy like this at night. I'm not gonna lie, it's like in the middle of nowhere in Ontario. For those of you that don't know, I am Canadian, and so I did pass by through this town while I was, moving to the other side of the country on the West Coast. So yeah, I think it looks great for a small American town. I think the location looks really good. It looks really creepy. This looks like it's probably 5 a.m. in the morning, or no, probably earlier, like 3 a.m. too. Next, we see a flyer of an umbrella is shelter from the storm. So it just shows like the propaganda, or not the propaganda, but I guess the advertisements that the town would have had, since it used to be the home of Umbrella, but then that stopped. When we start the movie. Again, this is information that I stated in my previous video. Yeah, so next shot we see Neil McDonough, and he's playing William Birkin, and I don't know if I'm correct. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Neil McDonough? I don't know, but he's a very well-known actor. And yeah, he always plays a really good villain. So, I'm really impressed with the cast so far. There's a lot of great actors. This isn't going to be like a low budget movie. I definitely don't think so, because like I said, the cast is pretty solid. And so yeah, we see him with his umbrella gown, classic, I guess, William Birkin. Next, we see a shot of Jill looking surprised, looking at, I thought was a phone, but no, this is the 90s, late 90s. That doesn't look like a phone. It looks like probably like a walkie-talkie. I think for this scene is the same scene that we see later with the helicopter crashing. I know that's my guess, or maybe it's her first time encountering a zombie. I don't know, that's just speculation. Next, we see a scene of Tom Hopper playing Albert Wesker. Now, I noticed a lot of people were like, where's Wesker's shades? He should have his shades. I mentioned that too, right? I mean, but at the end of the day, those are just minute details, guys. So, it's not enough to break the movie that he doesn't have the shades right now. Though I guess it just builds up to that point that, if we see him later on in the movie, which we will, because Albert Wesker, if you've played the games, you know that he survives. That'd be cool if like near the end of the movie he does don the glasses. That would be a good scene. So I'm wondering if the director is waiting for that. Next we see Lisa Trevor. We see her, she looks a little creepy with that mask and stuff, or it's not really a mask, is it? Now that I remember correctly, isn't that like the face of her mom and her dad that she like sewed together? Something like that, right? It was pretty creepy. I don't remember the exact details. It's been a while since I played the original or the remake. I mean, it looks pretty good. Next, we see a shot of RPD. Then we see Ivan Jogia as Leon. And he does, like I said before my previous video, Ivan Jogia is a really good actor. So I'm sure he's gonna, he does look like a rookie cop, right? He does look like he could play the character of Leon for Resident Evil 2. And I noticed a lot of people were like, yeah, he doesn't look like Leon. And to be honest, yeah, I mean, he kind of looks, we look like we could be related. I mean... that's what I said in the previous video. Like, we look like we could be related, and I would never play Leon because I don't look like him. But you know what? I don't know. I think, like I said, he's a really good actor. So I think it'll be okay. I don't think it'll break the movie. Next, we see a shot of some more fighting, and it looks like this is Hunk's group, or like I said, the same organization that Carlos was working for, that was an organization or a military organization that worked for Umbrella, the UCBS. And also, I guess we were not going to see Carlos in this movie. I just thought of that, yeah, because like I said, I don't think they're going to show us anything of Resident Evil 3 since they have a lot to show us in the this little amount of time. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of backtracking or any of the stuff that we see in a video game. But that's, we're probably going to see a lot of scenes of them skimming through the story or skipping entire areas. And, like I said, they're combining two games into one story. And the thing is that when you're doing an adaptation of a video game or a book, a book, you can have a lot of huge scenes. It could be a whole series of shows that could have like 9 seasons and whatnot, right? But when you turn a book into a movie or a video game into a movie, you're always going to run into issues of time constraints, right? A movie, you can't focus so much on exploration and lore building. It's hard, and so what I'm saying is that the book is always going to be better, the video game is always going to be better at that. And so just keep an open mind. Next, we see a scene of the truck driver, and we actually see him crashing. We see he's already infected, and we see him crashing right in front of RPD. So that's a little changed, right? I mean, they're changing the location of where he crashes, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not, like I said, it's not enough to break the movie. So yeah, next we see Claire. She looks like she's thinking. Yeah, we see more of that explosion in front of RPD. We see later on, it looks like this is more of a skip in time of zombies that are trying to break into the RPD building with the windows, with that classic scene. Next, we see a scene with Donald Logue, another great actor that I've seen in several movies and shows. And he is actually playing Chief Irons here. So this looks like the RPD building. Looks like he's encountering a dog, a zombified dog, which is, yeah, there we go. The next scene, we actually see Brad Vickers, and it looks like he's about to get eaten by a zombie. So that's how Brad dies in this one. I mean, I'm only speculating here, but like I said, Brad isn't going to die in the usual way of getting killed by Nemesis. I think it's going to be more of like Resident Evil 3 Remake, where he just died by getting bitten by a zombie. And yeah, that seems like the route that they're going with this movie, because I don't know, unless one of the STARS members saves him just in time, it looks like Brad is going to die, on the helicopter rather than in Raccoon City. Next scene, we see, it seems like this is right at the beginning of the movie, once Claire arrives and talks to her brother after she tells him about the conspiracy that's happening in Raccoon City. Next, we see another shot of RPD with the explosion. This looks like a shot of when the zombies enter the building. Next, we see Chris Redfield, Claire, I don't know where they are exactly. And then it skips and we see Leon speaking with Claire. Oh, then we see Leon actually donning on his armor, putting on the full uniform of the RPD. And I gotta say, I mean, a lot of people were kind of complaining that the outfit didn't look that great and stuff, but this shot right here, he does look like a rookie cop. He looks like he's just fresh off the academy. So I think he's playing the character well, what I can tell from the screenshots of the trailer, right? I mean, what I've seen, I don't think it'll be that much of a problem. Like I said, I don't think it'll be I don't think it'll break the movie. The next scene, we see Chris and Jill in the helicopter. It seems like this is the beginning of the movie, or roughly around the beginning when, the STARS members enter the mansion. And Albert, it seems like all the STARS are there. And again, these are scenes from the helicopter, but we have no mention or look at Barry. So where is Barry, like I said, I think they're probably going to omit him from the movie. Next, we actually have a shot of the mansion outside. And I gotta say, this looks like a really cool look at the mansion. Now, there's an added window that's in front on top of the door, and I gotta say, it looks really nice. This is very nice. Everything is dark. The only thing that's lit up is the main hall, which just adds to the creepiness, right? Next, we see William Birkin at a lab. Seems like he's working late. Probably the beginning of the movie, right? This is probably a scene just explaining the lore and how he probably got infected. Next, we see a little girl. Now, I'm gonna assume that this is Sherry, probably at the orphanage, right? So I'm assuming they probably took a lot of inspiration from a lot of different, the games, because like I said, we have remakes and whatnot. And it seems like this director did take a lot of influences from the remakes and as well as the classic games. And so yeah, but this one, yeah, I mean, like, we did have that scene in Resident Evil 2 Remake where Sherry was at the orphanage hiding from Chief Irons. Now, I don't know if they're gonna have enough time to tell that story. Probably not, but and that was also a really creepy story. I'm not gonna lie, that was really weird how Chief Irons was so invested in Sherry, you know. But then we see a similar shot to William Birkin working late. Seems like he's, I don't know if he's figuring out G or he's working on just the normal T virus here. Yeah, because there does look to be like a zombie on the bottom left. So in the next scene, we actually see a shot that we saw in the teaser yesterday with Claire and Leon looking at an old projector. And we see, and a really cool shot here is that we actually see mention of Resident Evil Code Veronica X, which is super exciting. I mean, let's just assume here that this movie is actually good, or, you know, I'm not expecting it personally. Like, this is my opinion. I'm not expecting the movie to be perfect. Like I said, they're gonna do some creative differences, but as long as they keep to the Resident Evil baseline story, then I think it'll be okay. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not looking for it to be perfect. Like I said, it's a video game adaptation, so they don't have enough time. If this was a show, maybe I would judge it a little harder, because, you know, with a show you can take your time, you can breathe, you can, you know, let the story tell, you know, there's more room for the story to develop compared to a movie. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the fact that we're seeing the twins and they're setting up Resident Evil Code Veronica X, they're explaining the lore, you know, that's really cool. The next we see another shot of Leon, and then after we see an Umbrella Corporation book. Next we see a document of Lisa Trevor. So they are going to go into detail with Lisa Trevor's story, which I think is a very interesting story that they added in the remake. You know, it was something that was never part of the original story, or it was just, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it seems like, yeah, they're going to mention the progenitor, you know, the G virus, extremely dangerous. You know, this all looks really good. You know, it looks like they really put a lot of effort into the lore and all the other stuff, right? And so, you know, like I said, there's going to be changes, but it looks good so far. And later on in the trailer, we actually see a helicopter crash inside of the mansion with the stars being there. And so this looks like a scene that was right after the plane crash, or I mean the helicopter crash in the mansion. I'm assuming that's how Brad dies, right? We did see an earlier shot of a zombie biting Brad, so maybe he was flying around the mansion. Or, you know what would be funny? If as soon as they got out and they get attacked, that there's a zombie that's hidden in the helicopter, and, you know, Brad is trying to run away, and as he's trying to run away from that area, because, you know, we know from the games that he's a complete chicken, that he actually gets bitten and crashes into the mansion. I wonder if that's what they're gonna do, but this, I'm just assuming, this is just speculation. I mean, we do see bits of ash everywhere, so it does look like Albert and Jill here are looking at an explosion. The next shot, we see the STARS team members entering a different room in the mansion. Here we see a closer look at his uniform with actual armor. And the thing is that, you know, in Resident Evil 1, the outfits were really bad. You know, I don't know why a lot of people are so, you know, focused on the outfits. The outfits for the PS1 looked really awful. I mean, they look, even like later on, that, you know, like in Resident Evil Remake, we saw Brad wearing a STARS uniform, and it just looks like a vest. It doesn't even look like a bulletproof vest. It just looks like they're all wearing a vest, you know, like for fall weather. And so this actually looks like armor. I'm okay with it. You know, it seems like a more modernized look, a very simplified military look. Yeah, it looks like they have the MP5s there rather than handguns. I hope they switch, but, you know, it depends on how many zombies they're fighting. But all in all, I think it's all right. Like I said, it's not enough to break the story, so hopefully that's the case. Yeah, next shot, we see them entering the mansion. This looks like the first shot of them entering. Then we see Claire with the shotgun, and Leon, I don't know where this is. Seems like this is a basement. I don't know, maybe the basement of RPD. I don't think so. This looks like a basement of a house. All right, next we actually see, yeah, this is the same shot. So we just saw the carpet of them entering the mansion. That's what I suspected. And sure enough, this is that same shot of them entering the mansion. And you know what? It looks really good. It looks really good. Where that vase is where the typewriter is supposed to be, right? This looks really good. I'm not gonna lie. Everything looks a little smaller, but I don't know if it's just a perspective or the angle of where we are right now. Yeah, it looks really good. Okay, next scene, we actually see them in a library. There's a piano there, so I hope that they try to play Moonlight Sonata. It looks like Albert was just next to the piano, so that would be interesting if that occurred. And it also looks like this is where the crash happens, because we see a light coming through the window, and this was the same room that Jill and Wesker were in. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is where that explosion, took place. Maybe this is where Brad dies. Like I said, this is probably the same scene with that fire in this room. Yeah, next shot we see a fire in what looks like to be the same room, a library. Next shot we actually see the iconic zombie, the bald zombie that we first see eating a Bravo team member. I don't remember which Bravo team member it was. But yeah, let me know down in the comments. I have to play Resident Evil 1 again. Yeah, I mean, this is a really cool shot. I like that they're bringing this iconic shot into the movie, so that's really nice. Though this time he's with Richard, right? And Richard is supposed to be in the Bravo team, if I'm not mistaken, right? So again, they're taking liberties with the story, creative decisions, and that's fine. Oh, next we see someone being eaten by zombies. Now, I couldn't get a close enough shot of this. I don't know who's getting killed. I'm assuming it's a Richard, but I can't tell. I couldn't get a good picture of this. So let me know down in the comments who you think is getting eaten here. Next shot, we see a zombie that's riding Itchy and Tasty, and we'll see that with the next shot. Thing is that I don't know if this is just a random zombie that Claire... I think this is just... Yeah, we see this old lady breaking through the glass. This is probably just Leon and Claire just exploring Raccoon City, probably trying to figure out what's happening with the conspiracy, and some lady or zombie breaks in and tries to eat them. This is probably that same shot where the basement, could be the basement of this house. Is this the same house as the beginning where Chris and Claire were talking in? Is this their house or Chris's house? I don't know, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Yeah, we see a shot here of that zombie almost eating Claire. Next we see the zombies entering RPD, and I love the structure, the pillars. That looks very similar to the architecture of Resident Evil, so they did a really good job there. I don't know who the production designer was, or the production guy, but yeah, he did a really good job with the arcs there. Yeah, it looks very reminiscent to the architecture of Resident Evil. And we know for sure from my previous video, we actually know that Capcom helped a lot with this movie in they provided blueprints of the original blueprints that they made for the architecture in the game. So it's really cool that Capcom was, involved in this game. And, we also from that previous video, you guys can look at that video on the top right. I'll leave a tag up there. But yeah, I mean, Capcom is really excited about this movie as well. Next, we see Claire speaking with Chris. This looks like Chris has taken damage, so I'm assuming this is later on in the movie. This does look like I was mentioning before. It looks more like a vest, the same kind of a shirt. So I like that. That's probably the end of the movie, or near the end, right before the final boss. Next, we see a shot of Leon shooting. We see a zombie dog. Now, I'm gonna be honest here, the CGI doesn't look the best for this dog. There were some good CGI moments, right? With later on, we're gonna see with the liquor is what we saw from the teaser. But with the dog, yeah, I mean, it doesn't look perfect. It doesn't look the best, and I can understand. I mean, doing CGI for animals is hard enough. Next, we see Chris in a dark room, right? Yeah, these are just random scenes in the movie, right? We don't know where they are. The next scene we see is Claire in what looks to be a basement. I don't know if it's the basement of a house, or this could be a parking garage in RPD. It is the same lighting, so this could be the park. Yeah, this could be underground of the RPD. Next, we see a shot of a creature that I don't know what this is. It has 2 eyeballs, so I'm assuming this is G. Is this William Birkin infected? And this is one of his forms, because he looks really weird. This is, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a long time since I played Resident Evil 2, the original one on PS1 or 2, so I don't know if this was one of the forms. This is definitely not one of the forms I remember in Resident Evil 2 Remake. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I think this is G, just because of the eyeballs. Yeah, that looks like a trait that you would find in G, so this is probably one of the forms, maybe the final form. I don't know. Guess we're just gonna have to wait and see next month, right? The movie's almost out. Yeah, very different looking kind of a monster. Yeah, it's got red eyes, huge face, or little face compared to the rest of the body. Kind of looks like a mixture of a liquor. And then sure enough, yeah, we see Claire and Leon running away from a liquor. So this looks like a hospital, or it could be the RPD. It's hard to tell. The hallways look a little strange. I can't really, I really don't know, right? This is just me speculating, but the liquor looks a little better. It does look like this is more of a liquor from like the original Resident Evil 2, if I remember correctly. Like I said, it's been a while since I played that game, but yeah, it's more of a mushroom-faced liquor compared to like, the remake or like Resident Evil 5, where we saw different looking, like just slightly different looking liquors. I think this is more of the OG one. But yeah, this CG looks the CGI for this one looks a lot better than what the zombie dog, right, the Cerberus, looked like. And those are all the shots of the trailer. Now, one of the things that I noticed that they omitted, like I mentioned before, looks like we haven't seen anything of Rebecca, we haven't seen anything of Barry, we haven't seen Mr. X or Nemesis, we haven't seen those characters. You know, we didn't see anything of Marvin, but like I said, this is also a very short trailer. And the one thing I didn't like about the trailer is that one, it was very short, which I guess is fine. But one of the things that I really did not like about the trailer was the music. The music did not fit the overall trailer atmosphere or feeling to the movie. It looks like it was just a bad song choice. I don't know who decided to pick that song. You know, that's not, it didn't go with what we were looking at in the trailer. But in any case, yeah, I mean, all in all, I still think that this is a movie worth watching. Now, it's not going to be available digitally, which is kind of a shame. I know, you know, they are trying to make the public go to movie theaters again, and they're trying to kickstart that up again, you know, especially with the world being in a pandemic for almost 2 years now. I mean, it depends on where you're living. Like the place I'm living right now, I'm not even sure if the cinemas or the movie theaters were closed again. You know, everything was open for a while and everything was closed. I don't know if they're closed, but it's been on and off, right, for several different areas around the world. But it seems like they are trying to push people to go back to the movie theaters. I kind of like digitally, you know, that you could just go home and just, you know, watch it at your house in the comfort and the safety of your own home, especially during a pandemic, because let's face it, that would suck if you went to a movie theater to watch Resident Evil and you contract, you know, COVID-19. That would be awful. But and so, like I said, I mean, I'm still reserving my judgments for this movie until I watch it, right? And this is something that you guys know that I've stated in my other videos, right? You know, like, and to be honest, when I first looked at the trailer today, it was such a short trailer and there was so much to digest that, to be honest, I missed a lot of things, right? And so I wasn't a fan of how short the trailer was, like I said. But after breaking it down, I'm still positive about this movie. Right, I'm still looking at the bright side. Like I said, it looks like it's going to be way better than Milla Jovovich's movies. And let's face it, most of us Resident Evil fans have watched the Milla Jovovich movies, right? We've watched most of them, because we always thought, oh, well, that's all we had. You know, those are all the movies that we had, and so we can't really, we complained after, but there's no denying that those movies made a lot of money at the box office, even though, you know, they had nothing to do about Resident Evil. And so, just like I said at the beginning, right, the bar is set very low for a Resident Evil movie to be successful or to be good. You know, it would be a shame if this movie was way better than the Milla Jovovich movies, but no one went to watch it because they were too upset that the characters didn't look like their counterparts in the video game. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, so let's be open-minded here. I know as Resident Evil fans in the community, you know, we're very passionate, and especially with movies, right? We've been really burned bad with the Milla Jovovich movies. So I understand where a lot of people are coming from with their anger, and they're like, why can't they just make it right? You know, it's really easy. Like, the Milla Jovovich movies made me want to just, you know, become a director and direct the Resident Evil movies. But like I said, you know, if we're talking about it honestly, you know, the Resident Evil story, especially for the early games, you know, the story wasn't, you know, completely 100% foolproof. You know, there was some issues with the stories anyways, or, you know, things that didn't really make any sense. But what I'm saying is that let's try to be open about this movie, right? I'm like I said, I'm reserving my judgment until I've watched the movie, and I'm hoping, and I am jumping on the hype train. I mean, I am excited about this movie coming out, you know, especially after I broke down everything, because like I said, the trailer was so short, the music didn't really pump me up for the trailer. So I think all in all, the trailer could have been a lot better. You know, and but yeah, and so that's my full trailer breakdown analysis of Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which, just a reminder, comes out on November 24th, so just in 1 month. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to knife that like button. It really helps out the channel. And also, if this is the first time we're meeting, consider shooting that subscribe button in the face, and also remember to punch that notification bell so that you guys never miss a video. So if there's any new information that releases before the movie's release, then make sure to come back to this video, and I'll have the latest video up in the comment section and as well as the description. Just so you guys know, this channel is supported by Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee, so make sure to check the links down below in the description, especially Patreon, to see all the perks you could get. And remember, don't worry if you're unable to sponsor the channel. Your support on YouTube and Instagram is just as important. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching, enjoying, and sharing my content. And I'll see you guys in the next one.
The right to be a god. That right is now mine.